Part 1. Principle number 1. You will become the story you repeat to yourself. At some point, everyone realizes an uncomfortable truth. You didn't become who you are by accident. You became this person because of the silent story you've rehearsed in your mind for years. Not the one you show the world, but the one running quietly underneath every choice. Most people never question this script, but the Stoics did. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts." He wasn't talking about positivity or motivation. He was talking about identity. Your mind becomes shaped by whatever beliefs you repeat consistently. If your inner story says, "I mess things up," "People don't respect me," "I'm not ready," "Others are ahead," "It's too late," then no habit or self-help plan can override that script. The mind follows the story, not goals or temporary motivation. The Stoic view: you don't control events, only the narrative you use to interpret them. Life is neutral. Events unfold, people behave unpredictably, plans fail, fortune shifts, but your interpretation determines how you feel, how you respond, how you act, who you become. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." Two people can live the same day. One calls it misfortune, the other calls it training. Same event, different story, different life.
Why Principle 1 matters today. Modern life distorts identity through notifications, comparisons, algorithms, trends. It's easier than ever to feel behind or inadequate. But Stoicism warns, your mind cannot outperform the story it believes. If your story is hesitant, self-doubting, approval-seeking, or shame-based, your decisions will bend toward that narrative. People sabotage opportunities or choose unhealthy partners because their inner story tells them they don't deserve more. Identity becomes destiny, and identity is built from story. The hidden mechanism: the brain seeks proof of whatever story you repeat. Through confirmation bias, your mind hunts for evidence to validate your narrative. If you believe, "I'm unlucky," you notice every inconvenience. If you believe, "People leave," neutrality feels like rejection. If you believe, "I'm incapable," you hesitate, then claim it is proof. The Stoics saw this self-fulfilling loop long before psychology gave it a name. Your life today is your story made visible. If someone observed your actions for 30 days with no background or explanations, they could identify your internal story just by watching your posture, tone, habits, reactions, risks avoided, and goals delayed. Every behavior is a sentence in your story. A small story shrinks your life. A strong story expands it. A story of weakness leads to hesitation. A story of responsibility creates clarity. A story of inevitability builds momentum. Thus the Stoics taught, change the lens and you change your life. Change the narrator and you change the path. Rewriting your story, the Stoic way. Rewriting your story isn't self-delusion or fake optimism. Stoicism is grounded in truth and responsibility. You rewrite your story by reminding yourself what is within your control, what you can influence, what you must endure,
what you must stop running from. The new narrative becomes, I can respond with reason. I decide my standards. I don't avoid difficulty. I am capable of discipline. I can handle what happens. This is how Stoicism forged unshakable people. The modern translation of Principle 1. Transformation of confidence, discipline, emotional control, habits begins with rewriting the internal script, not through hype, but through clarity and responsibility. Because the story you repeat shapes your choices shape your identity, and your identity shapes your life. Change the story, change the path, change the life.
Part 2. Stoic Principle number 2. Know what you truly control. There's a quiet frustration many intelligent people feel. The tension of trying to control things that were never theirs. It sounds like, I did everything right, so why isn't it working? Why don't they appreciate my effort? Why is life giving me this instead of what I expected? This is the pain Principle number 2 addresses. You control very little, but you fully control what matters most. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, two categories that determine your emotional stability. 1. The first column, what is not yours. Most people get stuck here. They try to control plans, timing, reactions, outcomes, and other people's behavior. Examples: editing a message to control someone's interpretation, losing sleep over a boss's opinion, running what-ifs to mentally manipulate the future. But if your peace depends on anything outside your influence, you've already surrendered your freedom. The mind clings to the illusion that effort guarantees results, but life doesn't work that way. You can love, prepare, or try your best and still lose. This isn't pessimism, it's clarity. The second column, what is truly yours. This is the territory you actually own. Your choices, your effort, your focus, your interpretation, your standards, your values. When all your emotional investment moves here, you become steady and unshakable. You can't control respect, but you can control whether you behave respectfully. You can't control outcomes, but you can control how you show up. You can't control the future, but you can control your habits today. As Epictetus said, freedom comes from focusing on what you can shape. 3. Why this builds real confidence. This principle isn't resignation, it sharpens you. When you stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable, you gain clarity, focus, and courage. Overthinking fades, fear weakens, and you begin succeeding more, not because you control outcomes, but because you control inputs so well that outcomes improve naturally. Confidence becomes a lifestyle, not a mood. 4. What happens when you ignore this principle? 3 predictable problems appear. 1. Everything feels personal because you assume everything is your responsibility. 2. Anxiety increases as if worrying gives you more control. 3. Self-worth rises and falls with results, so failure becomes identity. Stoics weren't emotionless, they were anchored. 5. A modern example, the interview. 2 qualified candidates walk into the same interview. The first spirals. What if they don't like me? What if I mess up? Their energy collapses. The second focuses only on what they control: preparation, clarity, presence,
Professionalism. They release everything else: the interviewer's mood, bias, competition, politics. One person tries to control everything and crumbles. The other controls themselves and performs well. This is the difference between a reactive mind and a grounded one. 6. The Stoic reframe. Peace doesn't come from controlling outcomes. It comes from controlling your response to them. Life won't always reward your effort or match your expectations. People won't always react how you want, but none of that determines your inner state. You do. This is emotional sovereignty, when Stoicism becomes a way of moving through the world. 7. The practice, a daily drill. Each morning write 2 lists. List A, not mine. People's moods, timing, outcomes, luck, opinions. List B, mine. Your choices, focus, discipline, standards, behavior. Then commit. All my energy goes to list B. I release list A before the day begins. Do this consistently, and your emotional life realigns. 8. The shift from control to influence. You can't control everything, but you can influence nearly anything. Stop trying to force outcomes. Start building conditions that improve them. This is why grounded people seem calm and magnetic. They don't fight the uncontrollable, they master themselves. 9. Conclusion of Principle 2. Your peace becomes unbreakable when it no longer depends on things that fluctuate. You think more clearly, decide more confidently, and act more intentionally. You suffer less and progress faster, because real power was never about controlling the world. It was always about controlling the part of the world inside you.
Part 3. Stoic principle number 3. Limit your speech. Guard your energy. Guard your power. At some point, you realize the most powerful people aren't the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who speak rarely, clearly, and with intention. Principle number 3 is about disciplined speech, something almost no one practices today. The Stoics understood a timeless truth. You lose power when you speak impulsively. You gain power when you speak with clarity. Speech is energy, reputation, and self-respect. Once spoken, your words cannot be taken back. So the wise live by, say little, mean every word. Mastering this principle changes how people respond to you and gives you a quiet, grounded strength. 1. The modern disease, talking without thinking. We live in a world where silence is rare and constant talking is normal. Talking to fill space, ease anxiety, seek validation, or escape discomfort. People reveal everything: emotions, secrets, insecurities, plans. The Stoics would see predictable consequences: oversharers being misunderstood, talkers appearing unreliable, reactive speakers losing control, constant explainers looking insecure. Most people talk not to communicate, but to relieve inner pressure, and their words work against them. 2. Stoic communication, intentional speech. Stoics believed your words should follow your mind. Think, understand, speak. Modern people reverse it. Speak first, regret, explain, apologize, over-explain, and then talk even more. This cycle ruins opportunities and relationships. The Stoic rule is simple: if the words don't improve the silence, don't say them.
Living this way requires discipline and inner calm. 3. Silence as power. Quiet people aren't weak, they're strategic. Silence gives psychological advantages. Others reveal themselves. Your words carry more weight. You observe details others miss. You avoid emotional mistakes. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The more you say, the less you control." A quiet mind produces calm speech. A scattered mind produces verbal chaos.
4. Why people talk too much. Hidden insecurity. Unnecessary speech comes from 3 fears. 1. Being misunderstood. 2. Being judged. 3. Losing connection. Talking too much isn't a communication issue. It's an inner safety issue. Fix the insecurity, and your speech naturally becomes precise. 5. The mistake of over-explaining. Constant justification damages your reputation. It signals uncertainty in your own decisions. Strong people explain only when needed, not for approval or reassurance. Your actions, not your explanations, reveal your character. 6. The Stoic pause. Before speaking, ask, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said now? If not, silence is wiser. This habit prevents arguments, impulsive comments, misunderstandings, and emotional mistakes. 7. How speaking less elevates you. Minimal speech automatically makes you seem more thoughtful, more stable, harder to manipulate, more trustworthy, stronger boundaries. Leaders speak intentionally because self-control begins with verbal discipline. 8. The overlooked benefit, inner peace. Speaking less is also emotional hygiene. When you reduce unnecessary talking, anxiety lowers, focus sharpens, thoughts become clearer, internal noise fades. A quiet mouth creates a quiet mind. 9. The 24-hour Stoic speech challenge. For one day, speak only when needed. Slow down before responding. Avoid over-explaining. Don't interrupt. Listen more than you talk. Choose clarity over speed. You'll feel fewer emotional spikes, clearer thinking, stronger presence, and fewer regrets. 10. Conclusion of Principle 3. When your speech becomes intentional, your life becomes intentional. Talking less strengthens you. It protects your dignity, sharpens your mind, stabilizes your emotions, and elevates your presence. Silence is not emptiness. It is self-mastery. The strongest people never needed many words, only the right ones.
Part 4. Stoic principle number 4. Hold your recognition lightly. Don't let praise or criticism rule you. At some point, you realize that other people's opinions, the praise, the criticism, the approval, have shaped more of your identity than your own values. You notice that how you speak, behave, and choose goals is often driven by one quiet fear. What will people think of me? Principle number 4 is the antidote. The Stoics taught that emotional freedom begins the moment you stop building your identity on external opinions. Their radical insight: praise and criticism are equally dangerous when you tie your self-worth to them. People understand why criticism hurts, but few see how praise can enslave them. Once you internalize this, you move through life differently, calm, grounded, self-directed. 1. The trap of external validation.
Humans crave recognition. Approval feels good. Praise feels comforting. But the danger is simple. If praise can lift you, criticism can break you. When you rely on approval, you give strangers power over your emotions. You hand away your peace and freedom. Stoics saw people rise with compliments, collapse with criticism, and live in anxiety because their identity rested on fragile external opinions. Epictetus warned, "If you wish to make progress, be content to appear foolish to others," meaning if you still want to look good, you'll never grow good. 2. Praise, a softer, more dangerous prison. Criticism hurts instantly. Praise hurts slowly. Praise is warm and addictive, but it conditions you to believe your value comes from other people's approval. This turns praise into a trap. You alter yourself to keep receiving it. You avoid risks that might threaten it. You say what's popular instead of what's true. You become a version of yourself designed to please others. This is how strong people become fragile without noticing. 3. Criticism, a mirror, not a definition. People are crushed by criticism because they were taught to treat disapproval as danger. But Stoics saw criticism as neutral. Criticism is data, not truth. Sometimes useful, sometimes worthless, often revealing more about the critic than about you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If they're right, correct yourself. If they're wrong, ignore them." Harm comes only when you internalize what was never yours. 4. The Stoic rule, internal standards over external noise. Stoics measured themselves by values, effort, intention, discipline, character, honesty. These are internal and cannot be taken away. Build your identity on the crowd's feedback, and it becomes a house on sand, unstable and easy to collapse.
Freedom begins when you break the approval habit. Most people live for recognition, posting for likes, working for applause, helping for gratitude, dressing for impressions, speaking for validation. And when the recognition doesn't come, they collapse. This is dependence, not freedom. Stoicism flips the script. Do the right thing because it is right, not because it will be rewarded. When motivation becomes internal, your actions become principled and free. The modern example, social media. Social media amplifies the problem. People measure worth by likes, views, comments, shares, followers. But the Stoic truth is simple. These numbers reflect the algorithm, not your value. If your mood depends on digital metrics, peace will always stay out of reach. The Stoic approach today: create with integrity, post with intention, accept results with neutrality. When you stop chasing approval, you experience stable confidence, lower anxiety, resistance to manipulation, stronger self-trust, authenticity, attracting the right people, losing those who only liked your mask. Most importantly, your energy shifts from performance to purpose. Stoic practice, indifference toward opinions. Stoics neither chased praise nor feared criticism. They held both at a distance. When praised, they see something they like. It does not define me. When criticized, they see something they dislike. It does not define me. Praise is a reflection. Criticism is a reflection. Neither is the truth. The identity shift, living from the inside out. Your identity is like a house. Build it from the outside on opinions, and it stays unstable. Build it from the inside on values and discipline, and it becomes unshakable.
When your identity is self-created, rejection doesn't scare you, validation doesn't control you. You stop bending for approval. You become emotionally sturdy. You feel safe within yourself. This is real strength, quiet loyalty to your own soul. Conclusion of principle number 4. If you remember only one thing, don't let the world decide who you are. Decide for yourself. Praise is not truth. Criticism is not truth. Your value does not rise or fall with opinions. The person who no longer needs recognition becomes unbreakable, calm, grounded, independent. When you no longer need the crowd's approval, you finally hear your own voice.
Part 5. Stoic principle number 5. Emotional sobriety. Don't let feelings hijack your judgment. There is a kind of strength far deeper than talent or intelligence. The ability to feel an emotion without becoming it. Most people lack this. Anger becomes their identity. Fear becomes hesitation. Hurt becomes insecurity. Excitement becomes impulsiveness. Emotions take the wheel and drive their decisions. Stoics called this negative passion, the loss of control. Principle number 5 teaches emotional sobriety. Feel everything. Be ruled by nothing. 1. Emotions are natural. Losing control is optional. Stoicism is often mistaken for emotional numbness, but Stoics felt everything: joy, anger, fear, jealousy, excitement. They simply treated emotions like waves, something to ride, not something to drown under. Emotions are suggestions, not commands, data, not destiny. This distinction is the core of emotional power. 2. The problem: most people don't realize they're emotionally drunk. A drunk person loses clarity, boundaries, and judgment. An emotionally hijacked person behaves the same. Anger, fear, envy, even excitement can distort perception. When emotionally intoxicated, you say things you regret, misread situations, overreact, damage relationships, sabotage goals. Emotions warp reality. Trusting your thoughts in these moments means trusting a distorted lens. Stoicism teaches the mental equivalent of staying sober. 3. The Stoic view: emotion is a guest, not a king. Stoics never said, "Don't feel." They said, "Don't obey your first feeling." You can observe anger without acting on it, question fear instead of fleeing, and breathe through sadness instead of sinking into it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You don't have to be angry just because anger has approached you. Emotions may knock, but you choose whether they enter and what they're allowed to do." 4. The real danger: emotional reactions are expensive. Every emotional impulse costs something. Anger, respect. Fear, opportunity. Excitement, discipline. Jealousy, relationships. Anxiety, clarity. Stoics didn't fear emotions. They feared acting on them without reason. The danger isn't feeling, it's losing judgment. 5. Emotional sobriety, the foundation of power. A calm person in chaos is magnetic. A centered person in conflict is influential. A grounded person in emotion is a leader. You can be smart and still ruin your career with one reaction. You can be kind and still damage relationships with one emotional outburst. The strongest people aren't emotionless. They're stable inside emotion. 6. The Stoic gap, the secret to mastery. The gap is the space between stimulus and response. Most people live without a gap. Stimulus happens, reaction fires instantly. Stoics trained: event, pause, observe, choose. Within the gap lies clarity, wisdom, restraint, power, your future. Expanding the gap is emotional sobriety in action. 7. The 3-step Stoic method for regaining control. Step 1. Name the emotion. Labeling creates distance. This is anger. This is fear. Naming is taming. Step 2. Locate the cause. Ask, what belief is creating this? What story am I telling? What facts am I ignoring? Change the judgment. Change the emotion. Step 3. Choose the response. Walk away. Breathe. Wait. Observe. Speak calmly. Reacting is impulsive. Responding is intentional. This distinction shapes your entire life. 8. Modern example: the text message trap. Texts trigger emotional intoxication more than anything. A short reply, unclear tone, or delay makes people panic, overthink, lash out, send emotional messages, escalate conflict. A Stoic would read, notice emotion, pause, breathe, interpret logically, respond calmly. The difference is transformative. 9. What emotional sobriety feels like. When you practice this principle, your mind quiets, your reactions slow, clarity rises, confidence grows, decisions improve, relationships stabilize, your reputation strengthens. People begin to describe you as calm, centered, mature, unshakable. You are no longer controlled by emotion. You use it as information. This is self-governance. 10. Conclusion of principle number 5. An emotion is not a command, only a signal. You decide what follows. Stoicism isn't emotional suppression, it's emotional sovereignty. With emotional sobriety, you avoid impulsive mistakes. You stop being manipulated. You protect your progress. You rise above drama. You become someone others trust. A person not ruled by emotion cannot be derailed or destabilized. This is Stoic power at its highest.
Part 6. Stoic principle number 6. Adapt to reality rather than demand it to fit you. There comes a moment when you realize a simple truth. Suffering doesn't come from life being difficult. It comes from expecting it not to be. This principle separates immaturity from maturity. The fragile collapse when life changes. The strong remain functional and grounded. Stoics understood that resistance creates pain, but adaptation creates power. The root of unnecessary suffering. Most misery isn't caused by events themselves, but by insisting, "It shouldn't be like this. People shouldn't act that way. Life shouldn't be this hard. My plans shouldn't change." These aren't observations, they're demands, and reality doesn't negotiate. Life, people, and circumstances unfold as they do. Most try to force reality to match their expectations. Stoics adjust their expectations to reality, suffering less and accomplishing more. The world moves with or without you. Life is like a river, always shifting, speeding up or overflowing. Most people walk into it and shout, "Slow down, stop being unpredictable." But the river doesn't listen. Rigidity gets you knocked down. The Stoic instead studies the river, learns its movement,
and moves with it. Marcus Aurelius captured this. The impediment to action advances action. Obstacles become pathways only to those who adapt. The 3 levels of adaptation. Level 1, reaction. Most people panic, resist, complain. Level 2, adjustment. Conscious people pause, accept, and alter their plans. Level 3, strategic adaptation, Stoic level. You embrace change, use it, and turn disruption into advantage. Setbacks become data, challenges become leverage. Wishful thinking versus Stoic acceptance. Acceptance isn't passivity. It doesn't mean there's nothing I can do. It means here's the situation, what's the smartest next move? Wishful thinking hopes for normalcy. Stoic acceptance says, this is the new normal, let's use it. Wishful thinking creates anxiety. Acceptance creates clarity and motion. The plan you made versus the plan life reveals. Your plans were built before new information, disappointments, or unexpected shifts. Most cling to old plans out of fear. Stoics adjust to the updated reality, the only reality that exists. As Epictetus said, you must rise to meet the circumstances. Change is easier when you stop fearing it. People fear change because they fear losing control, appearing unprepared, thinking differently, or becoming beginners again. Stoics see change as sharpening, recalibration, and opportunity. You stop feeling attacked by life and start seeing feedback. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Weather, the sea, and the wind are not yours to command, but your sail, your direction, and your response are. While others panic, the Stoic studies the wind and says, now I know how to steer. The 2 questions that make you adaptable. What part of this is not under my control? Release it. Other people's decisions, delays, randomness, external forces. What part is under my control? Your perspective, strategy, attitude, discipline, interpretation, and next move. Ignore the first question, frustration. Ignore the second, helplessness. Use both, power.
Adaptation creates quiet confidence. Confidence comes not from controlling life, but from trusting your ability to respond. If things go as planned, you execute. If they don't, you adjust. Stoics feel the shock but don't collapse. They move, and movement dissolves fear. This principle shapes your identity. You stop thinking, life happens to me, and start thinking, I can handle whatever happens. You become less reactive, more strategic, harder to manipulate, harder to destabilize. Your presence becomes grounded, and your mind becomes an asset. The world changes, and you must too. Life constantly replaces the old with the new. Your job isn't to cling to the old, but to become skillful with the new. This is emotional maturity, mental resilience, and why Stoics endured what others couldn't. Conclusion: the full Stoic mindset. If you've followed all 6 principles, you've seen that Stoicism isn't a set of quotes or tricks. It's a mental system where each principle strengthens the next until you become someone fundamentally different, stable, intentional, self-directed. The 6 principles form a chain. 1. Control what you can. Stops wasted energy and creates the base for discipline.
2. Interpretation shapes experience. Your lens determines your emotional reality. 3. You are not your first reaction. Create space between impulse and identity. 4. Expect and train for discomfort. Builds resilience and eliminates fear of difficulty. 5. Use obstacles as information. It makes setbacks strategic instead of personal. 6. Adapt faster than life changes. It gives you flexibility and the ability to survive anything. Together, these create a mind that is calm, strong, analytical, emotionally grounded, and powerful without needing control over others. The real transformation, immunity from manipulation. Most suffering comes from being controlled by moods, chaos, impulses, assumptions, and fear. When you practice these principles, these forces no longer hook you. Stoicism doesn't remove emotion, it removes emotional captivity. You become trustworthy, especially to yourself. Others trust you because you don't overreact, you don't collapse under stress, you decide clearly, you don't create drama, and your stability doesn't depend on circumstances. But even more important, you trust yourself. You know you won't betray your values, lose control, or crumble under pressure. This creates quiet, evidence-based confidence. The final shift, living by choice, not reaction. Stoic freedom is internal, freedom from instinct, noise, and emotional chaos. You realize, no matter what happens externally, I choose who I am internally. That is sovereignty, the real goal of Stoicism. The final word. You cannot control the outer world, but you can control the world within. Most try to control everything outside while ignoring what's inside. Stoics reverse this. They build an inner world so strong that the outer world cannot shake it. This is the transformation the 6 principles create, not a perfect or painless life, but a powerful one, grounded in the only true source of strength, your own mind.